My name is Caitlin and I'm 28 years old. At the family reunion, my dad introduced his stepdaughter as my real daughter and told 40 relatives I was the mistake from his first marriage. And everyone laughed. That sentence still echoes in my head because it didn't come out during a fight or a private argument. It came out with a smile, with clinking glasses, with fairy lights hanging over the backyard, like it was a celebration instead of an execution. The moment started innocently enough, the way most disasters do. I arrived alone, wearing a simple blue dress, telling myself I was only there to be polite. That blood still mattered even when it hurt. My dad barely hugged me, just a quick tap on the shoulder like I was a coworker he didn't like. His new wife was already holding court, laughing too loud, touching his arm every few seconds like she needed to remind everyone. She owned him now. The reunion was crowded, at least 40 relatives, cousins I hadn't seen in years, aunts who still remembered me as a quiet kid, uncles who only showed up for free food when my dad clinked his glass and said he wanted to say a few words. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach, the one that had been there since childhood whenever he decided to perform. He pulled his stepdaughter closer, wrapped an arm around her shoulders, and proudly said, "I just want everyone to meet my real daughter." A few people nodded. Some smiled politely, and I stood there frozen, telling myself maybe I misheard. Then he laughed and added, "Caitlin, she's just the mistake from my first marriage." There was a beat of silence, then laughter, actual laughter. The kind that rolls and spreads when people don't know what else to do. My face burned, but I didn't cry. I sipped my water, smiled, and said nothing, because years of practice had taught me that reacting only made him crueler. Inside, though, something snapped. All the memories rushed in at once. Him skipping my graduation, but posting photos from his stepdaughter's dance recital. Him forgetting my birthday but throwing her a surprise party. Him telling me to be understanding when he paid for her college and told me to take out loans. Standing there while 40 relatives laughed, I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a declaration. I was the joke, the cautionary tale, the proof that his life before his new wife didn't count. His stepdaughter looked uncomfortable. I'll give her that. But she didn't say anything. His wife smiled thinly, eyes sharp, watching me like she was daring me to make a scene. I didn't. I finished my water, set the glass down carefully, and felt an odd calm settle over me. That calm didn't come from forgiveness or acceptance. It came from certainty. Because while he thought he was humiliating me, he had no idea what I was holding in my pocket. I had spent months biting my tongue, ignoring late-night texts that buzzed with insults disguised as concern. Messages from his wife that told me I was ungrateful, that I should stop clinging to my dad, that I should be grateful she even tolerated my existence. I had saved them all, not out of revenge at first, but because something in me knew I might need proof one day, proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the way they erased me. As the laughter faded and conversations resumed, my dad looked satisfied, like he'd just landed a punch and walked away. Relatives avoided my eyes. A few gave me pity smiles. No one defended me. I stood there listening to the hum of voices, the clatter of plates, the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears, and thought, if this is who you want me to be, fine. I would be calm. I would be polite. I would be unforgettable. I replayed his words again. "You're my mistake." He had said it like it was a joke, like it was harmless, like it didn't rewrite my entire childhood in one cruel sentence. I thought about my mom. How she used to tell me I was wanted. How she tried to shield me from his disappointment until she couldn't anymore. I thought about every time I defended him to friends, every excuse I'd made. And then I looked at his wife laughing with an aunt, her phone sitting casually on the table beside her. That's when I decided this reunion wasn't going to end the way he thought it would. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't storm out. I stayed, smiled, and waited. Because sometimes the strongest response isn't immediate. Sometimes it's precise, I stayed quiet for a few minutes after my dad's words landed, letting the moment breathe, letting everyone assume the show was over. Conversation slowly restarted. Laughter returned in awkward bursts, and my dad looked proud like he'd finally put me in my place. That's when I took another sip of water, set the glass down, smiled, and said clearly, since we're introducing ourselves. The words cut through the noise sharper than shouting ever could. Heads turned, forks paused midair. My dad frowned, already annoyed that I'd interrupted his victory lap. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. My hand steady in a way that surprised even me. I think it's only fair everyone knows who I'm talking to. I continued. My voice calm, almost pleasant. His wife's smile faltered for just a second. And that second told me everything. I tapped my screen and began reading. Not rushing, not dramatizing, just letting her own words do the work. Text after text filled the air. Messages where she called me a burden, where she told my dad I was embarrassing him by existing, where she said I should be grateful he didn't cut me off completely. I read the one where she told me in exact words that I was a mistake he wishes he could erase. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few relatives shifted uncomfortably. My dad's face drained of color as he realized what was happening. His wife stepped forward, hissing my name, telling me to stop, but I didn't. I scrolled and kept reading. Messages sent late at night. Messages sent while pretending to be kind in public. Messages that made it painfully clear this wasn't a joke. This was a campaign. The same relatives who laughed minutes earlier now stared at her like they were seeing her for the first time. That's when I looked up and said the words from the reunion again. Slow and deliberate, so no one could miss them. At the family reunion, my dad introduced his stepdaughter as my real daughter and told 40 relatives I was the mistake from his first marriage. Everyone laughed. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. I turned to my dad, really looked at him, and asked, was that funny too? He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried to blame me. Said I was twisting things. Said I was being dramatic. But the texts were still glowing on my screen, undeniable. His wife's face went completely pale, the way it does when someone realizes their mask is gone and there's no backup plan. A few aunts started whispering. One uncle shook his head. Someone muttered, that's messed up. For the first time in my life, the narrative wasn't his. It wasn't hers. It was mine. I didn't scream. I didn't insult them. I simply finished by saying, I didn't come here to fight. I came because I thought family meant something. Now I see exactly where I stand. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, picked up my bag, and walked out while 40 people watched. Not laughing this time. Not smiling. Outside, the night air hit my face, cool and grounding, and I realized my hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from release. I sat in my car for a moment, breathing, replaying everything. And for the first time, the memory didn't hurt the way it used to. Days later, the messages started coming in. Relatives apologizing. Cousins saying they had no idea. My dad tried calling, left voicemails full of excuses and anger. But none of them included the words, I'm sorry. His wife blocked me everywhere. Which felt like confirmation more than punishment. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because showing the truth once was enough. I wasn't the mistake. I was the mirror they didn't want to look into. If you've ever been labeled, dismissed, or humiliated by the people who were supposed to protect you, remember this: silence isn't strength when it's forced on you. But choosing when and how to speak can change everything. And if this story hit close to home, if you want more real, raw stories where the truth finally comes out, make sure you subscribe to the channel because you're not alone and some stories deserve to be heard all the way to the end.